How does an avoidant go from ignoring your existence to being completely focused on you? The avoidant in your life pulled away, stopped texting, became distant, made you feel invisible. Then suddenly, without warning, they're back in your messages acting like they never left. This cycle feels random, but it follows a specific pattern. By the end of this video, you'll know the precise method that changes how an avoidant sees you, the psychology behind why it works, and how to implement it starting today. The standard advice tells you to chase less, give space, and wait patiently for them to come around. That approach keeps you locked in the same exhausting cycle. What actually shifts an avoidant's focus has nothing to do with patience or playing it cool. It involves creating a specific psychological shift that their system cannot ignore, and it starts with understanding why they pulled away in the first place. When an avoidant creates distance, most people assume it means lack of interest or that something went wrong. The reality operates differently. Avoidants pull away when connection feels too intense, when intimacy triggers their automatic defense system. Their brain treats closeness as a threat, not because they don't care, but because caring activates fear. The closer someone gets, the stronger their urge to create space becomes. This happens without conscious planning. One day they're engaged and present, the next day they're gone. The shift feels sudden to you, but for them it builds gradually until they need to escape. Most people respond to this distance by trying harder. They text more frequently, ask what's wrong, offer reassurance, or try to prove their value. Every one of these responses confirms the avoidant's fear. The more you pursue, the more threatened they feel. Their system reads your pursuit as pressure, which makes them pull away harder. You think you're showing care, but their nervous system interprets it as danger. This creates the push-pull dynamic that feels impossible to break. The cycle reinforces itself because your anxiety about losing them drives behaviors that push them further away, which increases your anxiety, which drives more pursuing behavior. Breaking this cycle requires doing something completely different from what your instincts tell you to do. The method that actually works requires doing something that sounds wrong at first. You need to become genuinely unavailable, not as a strategy to manipulate them back, but as a real shift in your own focus and energy. This means redirecting your attention away from them completely and investing it somewhere else that matters to you. The difference between this approach and typical advice about giving space is that you're not waiting around hoping they'll notice your absence. You're actually moving forward with your life in a way that changes your entire energy. This distinction matters more than anything else because avoidance can sense when someone is truly gone, versus when someone is pretending to be gone while secretly waiting for them to come back. Here's how to implement this starting right now. Stop all contact completely, which means no texts, no calls, no likes on social media, no checking their stories, no finding excuses to run into them. This isn't about playing hard to get or making them miss you. It's about genuinely detaching from the outcome of whether they come back or not. The avoidant can sense the difference between someone who's waiting in the wings and someone who's truly moved on. Their system only responds to the real thing. When you check their social media or keep tabs on what they're doing, that energy of still being focused on them comes through in ways you might not realize. Your attention creates an invisible thread connecting you to them, and they feel that thread even when you're not actively reaching out. While you maintain this distance, you need to fill your life with activities and connections that generate real excitement and energy. Take on a project that challenges you. Reconnect with friends you've neglected, pursue a hobby that requires full attention, or focus on a goal that matters deeply to you. The purpose isn't to make the avoidant jealous or to create an image of having moved on. The purpose is to actually redirect your emotional energy toward things that fulfill you independently of them. This shift has to be authentic because avoidants can detect performative detachment immediately. They've spent their entire lives creating distance and recognizing when others do the same, so they know the difference between real and fake better than most people. During this time, Work on your own attachment patterns and emotional responses. Notice when you feel the urge to reach out, when you want to check on them, when you start wondering what they're doing. These urges reveal your own anxiety about losing connection. Each time you resist acting on these urges, you strengthen your ability to self-regulate, which means managing your emotions without needing someone else to make you feel secure. This internal work changes something fundamental about your energy that avoidants pick up on instinctively. Self-regulation isn't about suppressing feelings or pretending you don't care. It's about experiencing your emotions fully while choosing not to act on impulses that come from anxiety rather than genuine desire. The psychological shift happening during this process affects both you and the avoidant simultaneously. For you, stepping back and refocusing creates emotional independence. You stop needing them to validate your worth or make you feel complete. This independence isn't something you fake or perform. It develops naturally when you invest time and energy in other areas of life that give you genuine satisfaction. For the avoidant, your absence removes all pressure. The threat they felt from your pursuit disappears, which allows their system to relax. Once they relax, space opens up for them to actually miss you. Missing someone requires feeling safe enough to let down defenses and acknowledge that the person mattered. Avoidants can't access those feelings when they're in defense mode. Avoidants only experience longing when they feel safe from engulfment, which is the fear of being swallowed up or losing themselves in a relationship. When you were pursuing them, even gently, their system stayed activated in defense mode. Now that you've completely removed yourself from their awareness, that defense mode shuts down. Without the constant reminder of relationship pressure, they start remembering positive aspects of the connection. They recall moments of ease, laughter, and compatibility without the weight of your expectations attached to those memories. This process of remembering happens gradually as their nervous system calms down enough to process the relationship differently. The memories that surface first usually involve times when they felt most comfortable and least pressured. Maybe it was a casual afternoon where nothing important happened, but everything felt easy. Maybe it was a conversation where they shared something personal, and you didn't make a big deal about it. These memories carry emotional weight precisely because they represented moments when the avoidant felt safe enough to be present without their defenses activated. Once they start accessing these memories, curiosity develops about whether that ease could exist again. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes time for an avoidant to move through their defensive response and into a place where they can access feelings of missing someone. The timeline varies based on how activated they were when they pulled away and how thoroughly you've detached. Some avoidants come back within a few days when they notice your sudden absence. Others take multiple days or even longer to process the change. Trying to speed up this timeline by breaking your silence or testing whether they've noticed defeats the entire approach. The waiting period isn't just about giving them time. It's about giving yourself time to genuinely shift your focus and build a life that doesn't revolve around whether they come back. When the avoidant does reach out, their message often feels casual or like they're testing the waters. They might send something low effort like a meme, a question about something minor, or a comment about something that reminded them of you. This initial contact is their way of checking if you're still available without having to be vulnerable. How you respond to this first message determines whether the shift continues or whether you fall back into the old pattern. The temptation to respond immediately with enthusiasm or to ignore them completely both come from the same place of still being emotionally reactive to them. Neither response maintains the shift you've created. The most effective response involves being friendly but brief. You acknowledge their message without enthusiasm or coldness. You don't ignore them, which would come across as playing games, but you also don't drop everything to engage in long conversation. Your response shows you're open to communication, but not sitting around waiting for it. This balance maintains the shift in dynamic without pushing them away again or immediately reverting to the old pattern where you're more invested than they are. A simple response that matches their energy level works well. If they send a meme, you react naturally, but don't launch into extended conversation. If they ask a question, you answer it directly without turning it into an opportunity to reconnect deeply. After that initial exchange, continue maintaining your focus on your own life. Don't let their return pull you back into orbit around them. Keep investing in the activities and connections you've been building. Stay engaged with your own growth and interests. The avoidant needs to see that your life has genuinely expanded beyond them, that you're not just waiting for them to decide they want you back. This ongoing demonstration of independence is what keeps their interest activated rather than allowing them to slip back into taking you for granted. They need to sense that accessing you now requires effort on their part because you have a full life that doesn't automatically make space for them anymore. As interactions continue, the avoidant will likely increase their effort to get your attention. They might suggest meeting up, ask more personal questions, or share more about what's going on in their life. This escalation happens because they're experiencing something unfamiliar. Usually people either chase them or give up entirely. You're doing neither. You're available but not pursuing, interested but not needy, engaged but not dependent. This combination creates curiosity and desire in their system because it doesn't fit their usual relationship patterns. Avoidants are used to people falling into predictable categories. Either someone pursues them relentlessly, which activates all their defenses, or someone gives up and disappears completely, which confirms their belief that people eventually leave. You're presenting a third option they haven't encountered much. The psychology driving this shift relates to how avoidants process desire and threat. When someone pursues them, desire gets tangled up with threat, making the whole relationship feel dangerous. When someone disappears completely, they feel relief but no pull back toward connection. When someone remains present but genuinely independent, desire can exist without threat. They can want you without feeling like wanting you will cost them their autonomy or sense of self. This is the specific psychological space where avoidance can actually experience healthy attraction and investment. Creating this space requires you to maintain your independence consistently, not just at the beginning, but throughout any renewed connection. Several common mistakes destroy this entire process before it can work. Breaking the silence too early is the biggest one. If you reach out before the avoidant has had time to truly miss you, you reset everything back to the beginning. Your message reminds them that you're still waiting, still focused on them, still the same person they needed distance from. All the work you put into detaching gets erased in an instant. The urge to reach out often feels strongest right when you should maintain distance, which makes this mistake particularly easy to make. You might convince yourself that just one small message won't hurt, that you need to check in, that too much time has passed and you'll lose your chance. These thoughts come from anxiety, not from genuine connection, and acting on them undermines everything. Explaining what you're doing or why you pulled back creates another major problem. Some people manage to maintain distance, but then ruin everything by telling the avoidant they needed space or were working on themselves. This explanation reframes your absence as a technique rather than a genuine shift. The avoidant immediately recognizes they're being managed or manipulated, which reactivates their defenses. Your detachment only works if it's real, not if it's a strategy you're consciously deploying to get them back. Even if your explanation is completely honest and comes from a good place, sharing it changes how the avoidant perceives your absence. What should feel like you naturally moving on with your life suddenly feels like a calculated move in a relationship game. Using this approach as a manipulation tool rather than genuine personal growth undermines everything. If you're maintaining distance while secretly obsessing over the avoidant, checking their social media constantly, analyzing every possible sign they might be thinking of you, or calculating exactly when they'll reach out, you haven't actually detached. You're performing detachment while remaining completely attached. Avoidants sense this inauthenticity when you interact because your energy still carries that underlying need and focus. The method only works when you've genuinely shifted your center of gravity away from them and toward your own life. This shift shows up in tiny ways you might not even notice consciously, but the avoidant picks up on it immediately. Another way people sabotage this process involves moving on too visibly or aggressively. Some people interpret become unavailable as Show them you've moved on by dating other people publicly or posting constantly about how great life is without them. This approach reads as reactive rather than genuine. It signals that you're still thinking about them, still trying to affect them, still caught in the dynamic. Real detachment doesn't announce itself. It simply exists as a natural result of redirecting focus and energy toward things that matter to you. Your social media should reflect your actual life, not a curated performance designed to make someone jealous or regretful. If you're genuinely engaged in new activities and connections, that will show naturally without you needing to broadcast it. The timeline question troubles most people attempting this approach. They want to know exactly how long it takes for an avoidant to come back, or how long they should maintain distance before giving up. These questions reveal the same attachment to outcome that prevents the method from working. When you're truly detached, you're not counting days or setting deadlines. You're living your life and remaining open to reconnection if it happens naturally, but you're not arranging your choices around making it happen. The avoidant returns when they sense this authentic shift, not according to a predetermined schedule. Some people see results in days, others in multiple days, and some never hear back at all. The outcome depends on multiple factors, including how deep the avoidance patterns run, how activated they were when they left, and whether genuine compatibility exists beneath the attachment dynamics. Some avoidants never reach back out, and that outcome provides valuable information too. If someone can lose connection with you entirely without ever feeling pulled to reconnect, they weren't emotionally invested enough for a real relationship. Their avoidance ran so deep that even the ideal conditions for them to feel safe didn't generate desire to rebuild connection. This realization, while painful, actually protects you from investing more time and energy in something that couldn't work, regardless of what approach you used. Not every connection is meant to last, and not every person who pulls away is worth pulling back. The method described here creates the best possible conditions for an avoidant to feel safe enough to engage, but it cannot manufacture investment or compatibility that doesn't exist. The difference between this method and playing games comes down to intention and authenticity. Playing games means you're performing behaviors to get a specific reaction while remaining focused on controlling the other person's response. This approach requires actually shifting your focus away from them and building a life that fulfills you independently. The avoidant might come back as a result, but that return is a byproduct of your genuine growth rather than the goal driving your behavior. This distinction matters because it determines whether any renewed connection will be healthy or whether you'll just fall back into the same painful patterns. If you're doing this to manipulate them back, you'll succeed only in recreating the dynamic that didn't work the first time. When the dynamic does shift successfully, and the avoidant becomes more invested and present, new challenges emerge. You need to maintain the independence and self-focus that made you attractive, rather than sliding back into old patterns of anxious pursuit. Avoidants remain sensitive, too, signs of neediness or pressure, even after they've chosen to engage. The relationship can only work long-term if you genuinely enjoy your independent life and bring that solid sense of self to the connection rather than losing yourself in it again. This requires ongoing awareness and commitment to maintaining your own interests, friendships, and goals, even as the relationship deepens. The moment you make them the center of your world again, their defenses reactivate and the cycle starts over. This also means recognizing that avoidants will still need space sometimes, even when they're invested. The difference is that their need for space won't feel like abandonment when you're genuinely secure in yourself. You can allow them room to breathe without interpreting it as rejection or loss of interest. This dynamic creates the foundation for a healthier relationship where both people can be themselves without constantly triggering each other's fears and defenses. Learning to give space without anxiety and receive it without panic is an ongoing practice that requires both people to work on their own patterns continuously. The broader lesson extends beyond just romantic relationships with avoidance. This principle about genuine unavailability creating attraction applies across different types of connections. People generally value what feels scarce and take for granted what feels constantly available. When you make yourself the center of your own life rather than revolving around someone else, you naturally become more attractive to everyone, not just avoidance. Your energy shifts from needy and focused outward to grounded and internally referenced. This shift affects how people respond to you in professional settings, friendships, and all romantic connections. Independence and self-focus create a magnetic quality that draws people in because it's so rare to encounter someone who is genuinely comfortable in their own company and doesn't need validation from others. Building this kind of genuine independence requires ongoing work. It's not something you do once to get an avoidant back and then abandon. It becomes a practice of consistently checking in with yourself, noticing when you're getting too focused on someone else's response or approval, and redirecting back to your own values, goals, and sources of fulfillment. This practice strengthens over time and eventually becomes your default way of operating in relationships. You stop automatically making other people the center of your emotional world and instead maintain your own center, regardless of what's happening in your connections with others. The question of whether pursuing this approach means you're accepting breadcrumbs or poor treatment comes up frequently. The key distinction is that you're not waiting around accepting whatever attention the avoidant decides to give you. You're living fully with or without them, remaining open to connection, but not dependent on it. If they return and offer only minimal effort or inconsistent presence, you're in a strong enough position to walk away because your happiness doesn't hinge on them. The approach only works when you mean it, when your life genuinely doesn't revolve around whether they come back. This foundation of genuine independence protects you from settling for treatment that doesn't meet your needs while remaining open to real connection if it develops. Some relationships aren't meant to work regardless of what strategy anyone uses. Two people can care about each other deeply while being fundamentally incompatible in terms of attachment styles, life goals, values, or readiness for commitment. The method described here maximizes your chances of creating a healthy dynamic with an avoidant, but it cannot force compatibility where none exists. Sometimes the most important outcome is developing the clarity and strength to recognize when something isn't working and having the self-respect to move forward. This clarity only comes from the kind of detachment and self-focus the method requires, which is why it's valuable even when the avoidant never comes back. The entire process teaches valuable lessons about self-worth and relationship dynamics that extend far beyond one situation with one person. Learning to detach from outcomes, to invest in your own growth, to maintain independence within connection, and to recognize your value regardless of someone else's response builds a foundation for healthier relationships going forward. Whether the avoidant comes back or not, you emerge from this process stronger and more grounded than when you started. These skills transfer to every future relationship and protect you from getting caught in painful dynamics that don't serve you. Now that you understand the precise method and the psychology behind why it works, you can implement it starting today. Remember that this only succeeds when it's genuine, when you truly redirect your energy toward your own life rather than performing unavailability to manipulate someone back. The shift has to be real for the avoidant to sense it and respond. Your focus needs to move away from whether they'll come back and toward building a life that genuinely satisfies you with or without them. This shift isn't easy and it doesn't happen immediately, but it's the only approach that creates real change in how avoidants see you and respond to you. If you've experienced this dynamic with an avoidant, drop a comment sharing what happened when you genuinely detached versus when you tried giving space while still remaining focused on them. Your experience might help someone else who's stuck in the same pattern. If this video helped you understand something you've been struggling with, hit that like button and subscribe for more content on relationship dynamics and attachment patterns. Thanks for watching.